I am super excited. I am here today with Dr. Maz, the queen of all things Chinese medicine. And we're here to talk about kidneys, Maz. Tell me, what's the bottom line on kidneys? What do they do? Well, what do they influence with us?
They do so much for us, but one of the big areas they influence is energy levels and anxiety, fatigue, some really fundamental things in our lives.
They really are fundamental. So let's jump in and pull this apart on this podcast. Let's talk kidneys. Let's just start there. Tell us from a Chinese medicine point of view, kidneys. We dig into those bits of why.
Yeah, so kidneys relate to the water element within the 5-element system. And the kidneys are said to rule the dispensing of the energy that we come into this world with. So our essence or our energetic endowment. The kidneys are related to they're related to how much energy we have to make it through our day. And if we're dipping into those reserves, we're draining what we're born with, basically. The kidneys rule the lower back and the knees. So if we get achy in those areas, that can be a sign about kidneys potentially needing some love. They're linked to the ears and hearing. So it's something that often comes up when people have tinnitus or different hearing changes. And they're also related to the adrenals, which are a big topic for both of us, I know, and the HPA axis, and then things like anxiety, sleep, palpitations, all that kind of exciting stuff.
Okay, so let's start with adrenals because that's my fave. And I remember learning 3 decades ago about exactly this kind of thing, that we're born with a certain amount of qi and the qi lives in the adrenal kidneys, and when we run out of qi, we die. That's how it was explained.
Drastic,
so, yeah, adrenals are so important. Tell us about, like signs of that adrenals are getting depleted, or that kidney thing connection is getting depleted, and some things that we can do for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So remind me to come back to pre-heaven and post-heaven qi, because that's really important.
You want to go there first?
Okay, let's go there first.
Pre-heaven and post-heaven qi.
Yes.
Now I'm intrigued. Come on.
Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
Really cool. Tell me about it.
So pre-heaven is basically it's the essence that we were just talking about. So it's that endowment that we come into this world with, that we're born with. And then post-heaven qi is how we build and dispense with our energy every day. So it's the daily energy savings account. So it's like, how do we eat? How do we spend our energy? Do we leave enough energy in the tank from what we've made at the end of the day, so that we don't go dipping into that pre-heaven qi, those essential reserves, basically. So one really important way that we can nourish our kidneys, and even according to some scholars, opinion is divided on whether we can rebuild essence once we've drained it, but some scholars suggest that if we're really careful with building our qi post-heaven on a daily basis with nourishing foods, regulating our emotions, doing like qigong or some kind of energy practice, that then we can actually rebuild some of that essence that we might have frittered away in the past.
I depleted mine in my 20s, and that was why I've because I just go fast. I get so excited about life. I go fast, which just I dip into. Obviously, in the past, I've dipped into my pre-heaven reserves, and now I do things and teach other people how to work on their post-heaven. So what's your favorite foods? Mom, we'll just go over there. We'll go back to adrenals. It's all connected.
Okay.
Food. Let's talk foods. You touched on foods.
Foods. Well, unfortunately, I think some of these aren't veggie friendly. So do you want me to skip over
dead
them?
Animal. No, there's people out there who eat dead animal. It's okay.
Oh, all right. I mean, I think bone broth is really amazing, because the kidneys rule the bones, and that deep marrow, that deep essence that's contained within the bones, when we boil it down and drink it in a way that's accessible, it can do miracles for restoring like cartilage damage, complete depletion. Like we use it postpartum as well to restore blood after someone's built a whole human, for example. So yes, we grow humans. It's pretty amazing. So also any kidney shaped things like beans, so this is more up your alley, they can be good if
eat a lot of those beans.
If people can digest them, because that's not necessarily amazing for all constitutions. And black foods, so the kidneys is related to water, as I mentioned, which is usually associated with black, sometimes with blue color. So black foods, so black
What kind of black
rice.
food? Oh, black rice.
Yeah, black
Excellent.
rice, black sesame. Now there's a winner, like black
I'm a black
tahini.
sesame girl. Yeah.
Yep, and sesame seeds are said to nourish the kidneys. So there's another big winner as well.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
very pro sesame seeds. Okay,
Yes.
super cool. That's a few foods. Importance of sleep. In my world as a naturopath, we say that you need between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night to replenish adrenals. Is that a Chinese medicine thinking thing too?
Absolutely. And we also differentiate between, like, not all hours of sleep are equal. So for us, the hours before midnight are the most precious, because the yang starts to rise at midnight. So then if we start to try to descend into deep sleep at midnight, we're not going to get very far because the yang's already rising. So 9 o'clock is great if you're recovering even earlier. I know, like you, burning out in your 20s, I had the same thing. I loved so many things and I wanted to do them all, and completely burnt out my adrenals. And I just had to go to bed at 8 o'clock every night for a really long time, because I really did a good job on my adrenals. Yeah.
Same. Well, you know it. Like, you've been to parties at my place and it's like 8 o'clock, go home.
I love that.
I want to be asleep by 9. It's the biggest thing, the biggest one thing I changed my health over the last 30 years. And it's been an absolute discipline that I won't, it's just not negotiable. I won't get on my sleep, because I know how important it is to us.
It's so important. And my husband and I were actually saying, because we're normally in bed by 9 o'clock and we were out with friends till 10 o'clock. Shocker.
Rebel.
And then it took us a while to wind down, and we both woke up, we didn't drink. The next day we're like, I feel hungover. It's so weird. And it's just because we didn't get that lovely multiple hours of sleep before midnight.
Bonus hours before midnight.
The bonus hours.
Night owl, stop it.
That's right. Get up early,
aren't you?
Yeah.
You're taking time off your life by being a night owl. That's enough motivation for me. All right. What else about what other things do we do to replenish adrenals on that post-heaven energy, chi?
So there's lots of beautiful qigong and tai chi, or energy exercises, even things like yin yoga, where we're opening up the kidney and its associated bladder channel or meridian. So the bladder channel is the longest channel in the body, and it's the yang partner to kidneys, yin, and it runs all along the backside of the body. So it starts above our eyes, runs all the way down and to the tips of our little toes. So anything that opens up the back of the body, like child's pose or a back bend, forward bend, not a back bend, that'll get your adrenals cranking.
Okay.
Forward bend.
Tight adrenals, child's pose.
Absolutely.
So,
or if you're feeling a bit razzed before bed and the mind's racing, child's pose. Or I really love like a supported forward bend. If you can't put your torso flat on your legs, you just put a bolster or couch cushion or a whole lot of bed cushions on your lap and fold yourself over so you're completely supported. So that's another way to open up that whole bladder channel. Really lovely and calming, and it just tucks you back into yourself and shuts off all that hyperstimulation out there as well. So yes, love that. And there's lots of great qigong moves where we're bringing the energy into the lower dantian, which is the area below our belly button, where all of that energy, our reserves, are said to live, in an area called the Ming Men in Chinese. Ming Men. Yes.
The coolest names.
I know, don't we? They're so poetic.
Oh, I know.
So we gather our chi there, and we work with creating like chi balls and energy balls and placing them there or in various parts of our bodies. But a simple way that anyone can access this is by getting your feet on the ground or on the sand. So the kidney channel begins at the base of the foot at a point called Yongquan, which is called gushing spring in English. So it's like this, it's related to water and this gushing of energy, that if we connect to the Earth's electromagnetic field, we can connect and get that energy and replenish our own charge from that connection. So we can also massage that area. Or my other big favorite is hot Epsom salt foot baths to nourish that kidney channel. So
if you haven't got a bath, a bucket of water, Epsom salts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't be shy with the Epsom salts. Like, we want to really saturate it, make it like really rich and thick and gloopy, and because the kidneys are related to the salty flavor as well. So they're salty and water. So giving them an Epsom salt foot bath is really nourishing and a great way to wind down before bed. So for my patients that have a lot going on in their minds and it feels like their head's racing, by having a really hot foot bath, we drain all that activity from the other end of the body up in the head, drain it down where it belongs, and you can get often a much calmer sleep. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. That's an awesome tip. Thank you.
Mm.
All right. So when we were talking before we got on here, you were talking about ears, because ears look like kidneys. I love the doctor and her signatures. So tell us about the connection between ears and kidneys.
Yeah, so all of the Chinese organ systems have sensory orifices that they relate to. So like the liver is related to eyes, for example, and the kidney is related to ears and hearing. And when you look at the shape, as we discussed, they look like little kidneys, don't they? Yeah. And one thing I was really fascinated to discover a couple of years ago is when there's anomalies at birth in the shape of an ear, often that's a clinical trigger to do further investigations and scans of a baby's kidneys, because they found that there's such a strong correlation between ear shape and kidney shape or kidney formation and functionality, because they're just a holographic representation of each other, which is, yeah, so awesome, isn't it?
I love TCM. It just makes sense. We do not, the Western doctors here, they're going to go, yeah, it's got 2 ears, all good.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
Okay,
there's so much more.
There's so much more. I agree.
Yeah.
So we've talked about adrenals. Let's talk about, you talked about anxiety. So many people are, even we went to a surf, gig on Saturday, you and I, and a woman, when she was there, she was running full on anxiety right there and then at the event. It was like, oh no, settle down.
Yeah. And there was a lot of input in that space as well. I thought like
that was a busy space. It was a busy space. Party.
It was fun. There was a lot of energy moving around. Yeah. But if that energy, what's that? Sorry.
Yeah. So let's talk anxiety or settling.
So there can be, I mean, there are as many different types of anxiety patterns as there are humans. I think like everyone is slightly different. However, when we do have a lot of that stimulation and, there was light and movement and wind and noise and humans, and if we're not grounded, then all of that energy is just flying up here and it's not moving through us and grounding into the earth. So if the kidneys aren't connected, if they're not grounding and anchoring us into our experience, then things can get a little bit scatty and we feel anxious when we're unsupported and ungrounded.
So is this where we do things like wriggle our toes or walk on
Absolutely.
the beach or walk barefoot, all those things? You were talking about that kidney channel.
Yes.
What are your favorite ways for sorting or helping the body with anxiety?
Well, there's that sensory one of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is look around and see 5 things that you can see and 4 things that you can hear. And then I think it's 3 things you can feel.
Touch, smell.
Yeah. And it gets a bit funky towards the end. It's like, I can't.
Just be with nature.
Just feel.
Smell it and put you back into your body. Yes.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways like that. But I think for me, the one that works and the one that works for a lot of patients when we don't have time to think of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is just grounding the soles of the feet. So even if you're driving a car or sitting in a stressful situation, just feeling the soles of your feet in your shoes or on the ground, bringing your awareness. Imagining also, if you want to get creative, you can imagine that the soles of your feet are sending roots down deep into the earth that are anchoring, and then you can just send any energy that isn't benefiting you down into the earth to be composted, because it'll get recycled into something else. So
yeah, I remember hearing years ago, I don't think it was a TCM thing, but if you want to keep that creativity and really use your brain, I live in bare feet the majority of the time. I don't like shoes because it's about letting my brain be relaxed and free, not constricted in shoes.
That's such a beautiful idea. And when you said that, it made me think of, when you look at a tree above ground and below ground, if a tree wants to spread its branches, it's got to spread its roots as well, right? Yeah. You've got to be nourished. So I spend most of my life barefoot. Yeah, definitely.
Same. All right, so let's go. The other kind of spectrum is energy, because you said
Mm.
kidneys are relating to energy as well. Is it the zoomy energy, or is it just energy in general?
Yeah, so it can be all of those things. So it can be that tired but wired adrenal one. So I'll have patients that are like, I'm never tired. And then when I sit down, I fall asleep. I'm like, okay, so I think that means that you're potentially running in fight or flight or sympathetic tone rather than, switching between the modes. So you're in yang mode, like burning, 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 and there's no yin time to balance things out, because you can't have things all one way, as I learned personally. Doesn't work. I tried.
It doesn't work.
You gave it a red hot go.
Yeah. We learn our lessons.
We learn, yes. So it's to do with, yes, with our energy throughout the day, if there is a razziness or that hyperstimulation, how do we bring that back to balance? And there'll be different questions that I'll ask people about their energy levels throughout the day that will indicate to me whether it's kidneys or more spleen that's involved, for example. So spleen would be more, they're a bit sluggish to get going in the morning, and then, they're fine throughout the day until they eat, and then they're tired again. So the spleen, the digestion's not cranking. But if it's kidney, they're just going to be struggling to keep their eyes open all day long. It's like the pilot light is running really quite low, and we need to just stoke that fire, get things going. So
we talked about, when we did your one of this last month, and we talked about spleen because of prolapse and all those things. We talked about how the pungent, the chili and garlic and all those kind of things were the foods that help spleen. So you're saying black foods?
Yes, black foods and
salty and
salty flavors. Yes, yeah, and things like Himalayan sea salt. So the kidneys also being related to water, they're very much involved also in the movement of our fluid pathways, but that also relates to our endocrine hormone health as well, because that's often fluid-based messengers. And because we're predominantly water, and because kidneys rule water, giving that water handles to work with can make it more easy to manipulate. So having like high quality Himalayan sea salt with electrolytes that we drink, or lots of beautiful organic or unsprayed foods that are close to nature as possible, is filling us with that structured water that then the body can work with more efficiently and move that water around effectively.
Cool. All right, so let's wrap up kidneys.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add? But
I think
I have to talk emotions with everything.
Yes.
So
we didn't touch on that, did we?
No, we have to.
No, let's go there. Okay, go.
So I wet the bed till I was 9, and just grew up in an interesting household, and fear. I just lived in fear most of my childhood, and I very much learned when I went to study, as a naturopath, that link between fear and peeing. And if I'm, I'll go on stage to speak at a speaking gig, I literally will do 2 or 3 nervous pees in the last half an hour before I go on stage. And it's like I'm aware of keeping the energy moving.
Yes.
Moving by peeing. Tell me your take on an energy, because that really excites me.
Yes. Well, so we relate kidneys, they're affected by fear and also by shock. So like a sudden fright can collapse the other kidney energy. So then we lose control of bowels or bladder. So there's nothing to hold anymore. And the kidneys, as I mentioned before, they're the yin organ system, and they're balanced by the bladder, which is the yang organ system. So no surprises when the kidney is affected by fear or anxiety. The bladder's like, oh my goodness, you're sending all this water to me. Like, we've got to dump some stuff so that we can rebalance things. Yeah. Yes. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's a really big connection. So the kidneys get burnt out by fear and anxiety. And actually, this is something, I'm really glad you brought this up, because this is something I do mention to a lot of patients who are rebuilding their adrenal or kidney health. It's not just about what we eat and drink and what time we go to bed, but it's also about the information and environments we consume. So
watching stuff. It's kidney.
Yes. So when I had, like, my adrenal burnout was so severe, it was it was bad. I was in hospital for a while. It was very, very not good. And I remember there wasn't much talk about adrenal. Like, I had to really dig deep into Google to find stuff. And I found one article, and they were like, oh, if you're stimulating your fight or flight system, your sympathetic nervous system, by watching stressful news stories or horror shows or even scary books, you're going to be triggering like what little juice those adrenals have left. So I made a decision then and there.
Never watch the news.
Don't watch the news.
Don't watch the
I
news.
don't watch scary movies. I was never a big fan anyway. Even books, if it's too harrowing, it's like I can't do anything about it. It's not serving me. It's making me feel better. It's actually just making me feel really like hyperstimulated, but not in a good way at all. So choosing what we consume mentally and emotionally is so important as well. And that can be environments too. There might be environments that maybe we don't feel like we can relax deeply. And relationships that maybe we can dial down those that don't necessarily support our adrenal health and kidney health.
Wow, that's big. That's bigger than I thought.
It's big, isn't it?
It is. It's huge. All right.
But I think it's exciting because then we can see just how much power we have to shape our own experience going forward, right? And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to change everything all at once. We can just be like, well, I'll stop with the news. I just won't go there. And then we feel a bit better. So it's like, maybe I'll stop going to that place so often and see if that feels different. But I always encourage people to check in how they feel before and after a certain activity or place or whatever. And are they feeling nourished by it, or are they depleted, you know? And
depleted, think about deleting it.
You know, oh, I like that. Oh, that's great, Jen.
Like that one. It's, you know, it's interesting. The naturopathic, we say adrenals feeds thyroid and reproductive.
Yeah.
And so like even me, when I burned out, I ended up with Hashimoto's, and the doctors are just like, here, take these drugs and be on your way. And I'm going like, it doesn't make sense. And I never did. And I was working in pharmacy and I didn't want to take the drugs. But that's the difference between a natural therapist, you know, whether it's the TCM world or naturopathic world, or whichever homeopathy, whatever modality. We look at the body holistically and the person holistically. So we're looking at the emotions. We're looking at, you know, I changed my sleep because I knew when I started to dig into it that was going to affect my life, the rest of my life. Got to look at the body completely, not just take a drug to mask a symptom and not do anything to rebalance the body.
Absolutely. Because then we're just going to keep masking, aren't we? And
dig a hole bigger.
Yeah. And I remember the thing that really saved me when I had my adrenal burnout was really yang boosting herbs. So I burnt out my yang by running around like a little energizer bunny. And so I just had to have the hottest herbs that we have. Just keep loading up on those for years until I rebuilt that little pilot light, that spark of life. And now I look after it lovingly.
Very lovingly, very mindfully. The biggest thing I do is respect my adrenals, because I know we're off this planet if we don't.
Absolutely. And what you touched on as well, with it being related to hormonal endocrine health, thyroid and all of that, it's very much kidney health will often be a player when we look at things like fertility and healthy periods and definitely things like what's that, sorry?
Menopausy things as well.
Absolutely. And absolutely things like hypothyroid and Hashimoto's as well. We'll look at really often it's boosting the yang.
Okay. I'm not going to do the bone broth, but I already did red kidney beans, and I mindfully use salt. So cool. All right, any last things you want to wrap up with kidneys? Such an interesting topic.
I think we touched on so much already. I feel happy that we've covered all the things. I mean, there's just a big relationship between heart and kidneys. I know we just glanced over anxiety, but they're the central yin and yang polarity of fire and water. So the heart is fire and the kidneys are water. And when there's a disconnect between those, that's often when we'll have anxiety symptoms or palpitations. So getting those two in harmony and talking to each other, like there's even a pulse that I will feel on the left-hand side of people, where if there's a bump between the heart and kidney pulse, then we say that the heart and kidney aren't communicating. And then very often there will be potentially flightiness or anxiety, ungroundedness, sleep stuff going on as well. So then we've got to clear whatever that disconnect is. Sometimes it's in the digestion, sometimes it's that the heart and kidney are just they need some strengthening to be able to actually reach the signal to each other through the middle. But there's definitely that polarity there between those two.
Super cool, super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next month we've got another body system we're going to do.
Yeah, we can talk about the heart, seeing as we touched on it just now.
Let's do heart next month. That'd be
great.
awesome.
And that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. So for those of you who've listened to the last couple, what's the best place to follow? If you haven't listened to the others, check them out. Dr. Maz has got some great podcasts. You've also got your own podcast. Where can they find your own personal podcast?
It's called Balanced Natural Health with Dr. Maz. It's on Spotify and Apple, and I'm coming back with another season of it. So I had a little break, and my Insta is Balanced with Dr. Maz. So I'm sharing stuff about all the organ systems and how we can look after our health every day in simple ways.
Nice. And they can download a free ebook from you, which the link is on your Insta. Is that the story?
It is. It's on the bio. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Check out what Dr. Maz is up to. So much cool stuff. I really look forward to talking about heart next month.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Yay.
All good fun. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Catch you next month.